And welcome back. This is K24 This Morning. Looking at the big stories of the day, as always, we like your views on the news. You can tweet us at K24TV, or alternatively, you can also SMS us. The SMS line is 21222. Sir Alex saying if there was an opposition, then Uhuruto would be misfortuned. Unfortunately, hakuna kitu kama hiyo. Nick Okeyo, Pure Light's administration, which demands the money from parents in order to facilitate the buying of such materials. However, even if some parents do it on their own at home for their children, teachers do it more. Most cases, teachers corrupt the mindsets of the parents in order for them to buy these exams. That, of course, was concerning the KCP and KCSE coming up and the cheating that has been known to take place previously in those examinations. Right now, we're moving on and we're talking about the SGR. Second phase being commissioned tomorrow by the president, goes all the way to Naivasha. But where it started off in Mombasa, things are not well. We've had University of Nairobi report talking about the fact that the coastal economy is shrinking. They're losing up to, they stand to lose close to 8,000 jobs because of this directive to have haulage done via the railway line and not giving people options. We've had protests done before. There was tear gas that was thrown. One of the protests became chaotic, but they say they shall not stop until this is addressed. They don't feel any reason to celebrate the heroes on Mashujaa Day. So let's go back, because the CS says that directive has since been expunged. They're not supposed to do that. But like I was saying, vitu kwa ground. They're saying totally different. different, because when they go to the railway tracks, the directive is still being carried out. Yeah. Who's telling the lie right here?
In fact, there's one of the operators yesterday who asked a very pertinent question. If the SGR prices are so competitive and the service is so efficient, then why not compete? Leave the trucks, leave the railway track, let the market decide. Yes, let the market forces decide. We claim to be a capitalist economy where it's the market forces, it's supply and demand. Then why is government strong arming the suppliers to only use one route? And you know how it works. Once all of you are now stuck with the railway, the trucks are dead, and then all of a sudden the prices will not be as friendly as they are now. And if you're looking at the coast economy shrinking, you have to look at all the others that are shrinking. Look at Voi, look at Mtituandei, look at Mlolongo, look at Salga, look at all those little towns that have sprung up because of trucking.
As trucking stops.
If you look at even the people who benefit from the same, from the guys who sell yogurt along the road to the lodgers, to the guys with the lodgings. And it's not just the trucking companies that are losing out. It's the entire ecosystem that has come around this country. In a country where we are asking people to generate jobs and to create jobs, for government to be the very, government has already hired all it can hire. It can't absorb anymore. We are actually asking them to punguza mzigo. We're asking them to shed some of the people they've hired. So when you see people killing the very little, the SMEs that are coming up, then it begs the question, is somebody thinking about what is happening in the economy of this country? And the misfortune with that is that now you find the cost of building the SGR becomes a burden rather than it being prosperity. As long as people don't have money to spend, it doesn't matter if you've got beautiful roads. There'll be no cars to drive on them. There'll be no people taking the SGR to go to Mombasa for a holiday because they cannot afford the holiday anyway. So the government has to tread the fine line between providing infrastructural development, but also leaving the incentives that generate money in the economy to keep going. We cannot afford to have government be the one taking away jobs from Kenyans. That is an indictment on the minister. It's an indictment on government actually thinking through some of their policies.
Dennis, we have a government that can't afford to lose the promise they gave with the SGR, because this was supposed to be a mega project that brings a lot of economic development. But you look at the Bureau of Statistics, and they spoke about the fact that they were going to, the projections were brought down by 44%. They say that this thing is not working how we thought. Is this why the government has to make sure every single, package, every single container uses this particular railway line at the cost of, private individuals and truckers who had their own business? And now it's becoming an SGR monopoly, as they say.
I remember a media interview the president did a while back, and promised one journalist that he's going to offer some contractual papers that at least we can get to know whether this thing is expensive or affordable, or whichever it is. But I think there's a lot of dishonesty in a lot of infrastructural developments in Kenya, because large infrastructure developments are supposed to spur job creations. the Jubilee government promised to create jobs, but it looks like their infrastructural projects are actually disrupting local markets. Because SGI itself, if you decide to source labor, materials, and everything of the sort, we should see a thriving economy in the coastal area because we have an infrastructure project costing billions. Actually, technically, 60% of that is supposed to spur local areas. And that's the reason why you see the first railway project in Kenya, the route it followed is the route that towns sprang about, you understand? If you look at the map of Kenya entirely, it's sort of developed in one line, and we struggle to develop the other line. So it means that every infrastructure development, especially that touches the road, whatever it is, that there is transportation, really should spur development but not disrupt. And we are looking also at the job market nowadays being so fickle and feeble. You can imagine what will happen to Mombasa already. We are struggling with terrorism. We are struggling with tourism. We are struggling with so many things at the end of the day. So what happens if you kill a secondary hope towards them? You know, that also we're going to get into issues with other countries, you know, that we've signed bilateral trade relationships with, that see our port as an integral bloodline to the growth of the economy. And where you have the Bagamoyo Tanzanian project being a mega project that is going to overshadow ours. So the government has taken a fascist approach that is of risk, not just to our economy, but also to local economies. And it's a tragedy because this handshake has made Mombasa governor a blind horse. You know, now he's behaving like a goat at the end of the day. He is not saying anything to help his people. You understand? You're talking the kind of developments, the kind of money, you know, capital expenditure that the truckers have put through. Some of them are going to die because of the loans themselves, that they're never going to pay themselves. So if infrastructure projects are not spurring jobs, they are not spurring local economies at the end of the day, that they're actually being the disruptive element, then we need to rethink about those projects as a nation.
And even as we look at this, we have Mvita MP who's spoken about the fact that they shall not stop these protests until the government, you know, rescinds this particular directive that they gave. They'll also possibly on Mashujadi have their own alternative function going on.
That's useful.
What will this achieve? Because some people are saying, okay, fine, boycott Mashujadi if you want. Government will move on just business as usual.
You know, it's... I don't know if you saw the pictures from the burial of the late President Robert Mugabe, when people chose to not turn up at the funeral. And they've bothered to put it in a stadium, thinking that people will come to pay their respects to the founding father of the nation. And people voted with their feet and chose to stay home. It is an indictment when, as a leader, you are moving forward. And when you turn back, you realize nobody is following you, because that just makes you a man taking a walk. You're not a leader. You're just a guy walking down the street. And that's why I keep saying our politicians have to reach a place where they wake up and smell the coffee. We have come to a place where I think there's a disconnect between our leaders and the people. When you read the newspapers, you see some of these stories. I saw something in one of the dailies about now they'll no longer be allowing us to import second-hand electronics. There are some of us who are able to own laptops because refurbished laptops come in and they're like 10,000 bob, 15,000 bob. And that means we can operate an online business and we can move forward with our lives. But somebody wants us now to buy a brand new one from the box that has come with all the bells and whistles, which many of us cannot afford. We saw the death of Kirinyaga Road spares. When you're being told, you know what, now you cannot do ex-Japan, you have to buy them original. And yet there was a market for Taiwan, there was a market for Dubai parts. I mean, there's a guy, all he needed was to plug the hole at the back of the matatu so he can carry on with business. But if you tell him to wait until he raises enough money to buy an original, legitimate Nissan Light, it means his car is off the road for a few days while he looks for money elsewhere. There is we have to admit that we are a country that we are not yet there.
Is it a policy disconnect in the sense that we want to live a first-class life?
That's the point I'm trying to make.
But it's a different budget we have.
That the policy makers are looking at some of these macro projects and they're losing sight of the micro economy down here. There's some of us who We are happy to wear a counterfeit shoe if it buys us 3 months, because by then we'll have enough money to buy another counterfeit shoe. But if you tell us to save for a year so that we can just buy 1 pair of original shoe, it will hurt us. That those of us who thrive on Mtumba, that those of us who... My point is, the policy makers have to get to a place where they look back and see, are we taking Kenyans along? And right now, I would surmise that these projects are going on very well. The infrastructural projects are doing very well. We are seeing the housing pillar, the houses that are coming up, they look beautiful. You're seeing UHC being piloted and moving forward, it looks beautiful. But if Big Four does not remember, it is Big Four for people, and we just have monuments, then at the end of the day, you'll have a legacy in brick and mortar, but you'll have lost the hearts of the people. If I was the president, one of the things I would require each of my ministers to do, you must use the facilities that you're telling people that you want. You must go to the ground and have a feel of it. You must partake of that public hospital if you're the Minister of Finance. You must ride the SGR in the regular cabin if you're the Minister of Transport. You must understand how this affects Kenyans. You must go and see the towns that are affected by this tracking. That's the same thing with our exports. The tea farmers are now uprooting their tea, and yet Kenyan tea is amongst the finest in the world. We have allowed people to take over, cartels to take over the cooperative movement and kill the little man. My point is this: on the macro projects, the government has done excellent, but they need to find a way of connecting the microeconomy with the macroeconomy. And how you do that is remain sensitive to the subpar people who are happy to use this Mtumba, because I'm a lawyer now, I'm happy to wear my suits and look. But there's a time it was Mtumba suits that would do it for me. I had to go to Gikomba and look for camera ones. We all start from somewhere. We cannot behave as if, you know, if they don't have these ones, then if they don't have the trucks, then they must use the SGR. One day people will say, you know what are we even putting on the SGR?
And even as we look at that, let's swiftly move on because of time. Something else we need to talk about, Punguza Mzigo. Goes to another county, another rejection right there. Dr. Kurokota said that they still have a plan to save this, even if, as you can see, time is really not on their side. Busia rejecting, Kakamega rejecting it this time round. Is this because of the political environment is in, or is it the fact that as a document, there's nothing you can change? It's simply either yes or no, and you have to move on from there, Dennis.
One of the things that I'm disappointed in two faces. Number one, I'm disappointed with Dr. Kuru. Because he failed to capture the public euphoria and the way the public embraced. He
got over 1 million signatures, made it people-driven. What else should he have done, in your opinion?
And technically, the bill itself trended amongst the public. The public, it was a loved thing. It was a loved bride that you can't espouse or even hold or even shake hands. Really, there was a failure in terms of capturing and institutionalizing the public euphoria. And because the public saw that this is something that can save us. But at the end of the day, Dr. Kuru didn't manage to touch base with the people. And instead, he went to politicians who are corrupt and who have no heart for the people. And it's a tragedy. And I feel very bad that this is actually something that's dying slowly. It's almost a painful death of something that's good. And it's a tragedy.
Right.
It's a tragedy. And I hate to imagine that this country is in the hands of selfish MCAs. Even the very nature that the aspect that money is going to move in towards is something that they didn't see. And let me tell you what, I believe in sequential democracy. I believe that a document doesn't need to be 100% good. But if a document gets us from 20 to 60, embrace it.
Right.
Then one day, we will move from 60 to 70, and 70 to 80, and we'll get to 100. It doesn't have to be something perfect. If you look at our Constitution, the makers and the imaginers of it, including an aspect like public participation that people have never really embraced, which is the most prime thing in our Constitution, is something that we are moving slowly and slowly and slowly. The second thing that I'm disappointed about, I'm disappointed by the very virtue that we have seen that county assemblies are not independent institutions. They can be manipulated for as low as 5,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings, 10,000 shillings, interest of a trip to Tanzania and thereabout. And even the very nature that they're averse to studying and reading a document. Some of those guys, some of those funny MCAs, they haven't read and institutionalized And imagine this country 10 years from now, 15 years from now. You know, they've been caught by the whims of their bosses. And the governor is not your boss. The people are your boss. The MP is not your boss. So any strong politician within that area that hated Punguza Mzigo, it was ultimately embraced. It was almost like a father-son relationship. So that for us is an indicative that the citizenry of this country have nothing of themselves to hold, other than wonderful imaginations and powerful and painful experiences. I think that's all that we have. And going forward, we need to rethink, is Kenya a democratic nation? Or we are led by megalomaniacs and kakitocracies? Or are we really a democratic nation?
Joy,
or
let me bring in on this as well.
Are we still in the dungeons of neo-colonialism?
Joy,
because
for some people, they'll say that
it's a tragedy.
As Dennis has said, he didn't get the public buy-in on this. Some people are looking at it the other way around, that he actually did get the public buy-in.
Exactly.
It's the politicians he didn't manage. It's the MCAs and the MPs who said they'll sit on this if it comes to the Assembly or the Senate.
I said he got the public buy-in, but he didn't use it.
He didn't capitalize.
He didn't capitalize on it.
No,
and what about the politicians?
And one of the ways of
not
capitalizing,
part of this.
One of the ways of capitalizing on this is having the Mwananchi talk to the MCAs directly and tell them, dare you not pass this bill, you're not coming back here for votes. But Kenyans have not yet learnt the power that they have as a voter to influence policy.
So is it a civic education? Because every time we talk about what we should do, it's as if the Kenyans don't know how much power you actually have and what you can actually do and demand of your MCA, your MP, your senator. We just don't know.
No, you know, we are used to using our MPs as come and grace our
fundraising, burials.
Or you take them cards for your burials
Birthdays.
and cards for people who are going abroad for studies. And we have used our MPs as cash cows. And we have forgotten, by the way, why we put them there. Same thing with our MCAs. They are supposed to be your representatives. If you talk to general members of the public, they are quite happy with the romance that was the Punguza Mzigo bill. But for many of them, they are not able to get to the MCA and tell them, if you guys in Nairobi County angusha this bill, all of you, you can be sure we are getting you out come the next election, or even we'll start a process of, because there's a process of recalling MPs. But that's beside the point. In my opinion, Punguza Mzigo is not entirely lost. It is a lesson learned. We have learned as Kenyans that we can actually, by ourselves, without politicians, kickstart a process of starting or of amending the constitution. That has been shattered. It's been broken. Now we know, oh yes, this is a possibility. So if it achieved nothing else, Kenyans have understood, oh, there is a function in the constitution that allows us to be able to change the constitution by ourselves, which for me is a huge win. Secondly, Punguza was able to, like you said, rally the support of over 1 million Kenyans to actually sign the bill, and many more who came to speak out about it. It actually ignited a national debate, got people like BBI scrambling because now they realize they need to up their game. It wasn't just, let's just sit there and see what they come up with. And now BBI comes up with something that doesn't capture that aspect of the Mwananchi aspect of Punguza in the Mzigo somehow.
Right.
Then BBI can be sure that the kiboko inangoja Punguza ndo ile kiboko bado inangoja BBI. Another thing that I think is a win with Punguza is that we have been able to also hold, we have seen where the politicians' bread is really buttered. And for Kenyans also, it's a wake-up call, like Dennis said. The MCAs vowed one thing, and they were influenced however they were influenced. The National Assembly as well, they came out guns blazing because they were the first ones to be affected. But it's also a lesson for the proponents of Punguza Mzigo bill. Just because you have a good idea doesn't mean it will sail through. If it's a political process, you must find a way of getting political buy-in way before you put all your cards out there. The lobbying that Kuru was doing when they were looking for the signatures, the way it was chini ya maji, that's how the lobbying with the MCAs should have gone. Not while the document is already being bastardized out in the public. And over and above that, they need to also understand, like you said, the way the Constitution has it drafted is that you accept the bill as is or reject it. The Punguza Mzigo bill, the Punguza part was very lovely, but there was loads of that document that was not 100%. If we had passed it, it would have faced, the next day it would have been in court, constitutional this, constitutional that, and it would have fallen at that hurdle. Okay. So the drafters also needed to have picked a fight. Okay. If it was Punguza, what was it? Just have one proposition.
And go with that.
Let it just be a clear yes or no thing. But it has corruption inside. It has the term of the president. It has the term of how long the appeals will take. It was such a mishmash. And even the way it was punguza in the mzigo, was that the best way the mzigo could have been punguzed? So it's also a question for future drafters. Think it through. Have a proposition that can be discussed and negotiated. But like I have opined before, the way we drafted our constitution, it is easier to get to heaven than for a common wananchi to change the constitution. Popular initiative was almost drafted to fail. That it doesn't matter how hard it's like climbing a glass mountain on a rainy day. You get to the top, then it starts raining, and you just slide back down slowly.
Okay. But of course, Dr. Okot has said he still has a plan. All is not lost. So probably there's another card that he's holding.
I mean, he was on
the Trump card.
He was the secretary of the committee of experts, so it's possible.
Something
he knows something
that we
the rest of us
Okay,
don't.
Jeff, just
very quickly, 30 seconds as we wrap
very
up.
quickly, I think one of the things that Punguza Mzigo has helped us to see, number one, is that actually we can move from passive power to active power citizenry. We have that power.
Right.
Number two is that it brought into fore the mechanisms around public participation, because the envisioned public participation style is that we don't have rulers, we have facilitators who are supposed to make us rule, and that's 174 CA. And if you look at that, it is not the governor who is a ruler. The governor's work is to create a palatable environment for Nairobians to rule and decide their mechanism. Number three is that we must purely kill tokenism, because that's a disease that our politicians have. They are subtle business people who are there to harvest tokens. And if we don't deal with that, nothing will happen in the county assemblies, nothing will happen in parliament, nothing will happen in Senate. And that is what has disabled governance in this country.
As we wrap up, quick question someone had raised actually, and it was indeed a key point. One of the counties that this Punguza Mzigo bill was rejected was right here in Nairobi. But let's look at the county of Nairobi and its administration right now.
Oh, Lord. From
the sense that, and this is just now from a legal point of view, as you educate us before you get into your parting shot, we have, when the governor isn't in the country and you see his video on WhatsApp in France, doing whatever he's doing, we have a county that doesn't have a deputy governor, that the speaker can't go into office because every time she walks in, there's chaos. In this particular scenario, Joy, who's supposed to run Nairobi County?
When the governor is not there, his deputy is supposed to run the county. When the deputy governor is unavailable, then the next one in line is the speaker. And now that the speaker is impaired, basically we're on autopilot in Nairobi. And it's not a desirable position. I would that Jubilee as a party would realize that this is our mess. And we have the governor of the biggest economy in Kenya, his feet are not quite on the ground. And as a party would rally and say, you know what, Nairobi is too big to mess up. Let's find a way out of this quagmire. The governor is entitled to take a break every once in a while. I cannot begrudge him that. Let him go and have, every one of us needs kuachilia freno once in a while, so that the pressure eases. But the problem is that when you do that, when the city is somehow burning, it's like Nero. I mean, you're sitting there having a party while Rome is burning. Now, that is the part that doesn't make sense. A good leader would have said, you know what, yeah, let me go, my people need me, I'll rest a little while later. So there's an indictment on that part. I would that Kenyans would learn their lessons. That it's not the fact that you're the most popular that would make you the most effective leader. That's where democracy has failed us. We have a very popular governor. People love him. His constituency, his base is solid. But he is not the best thing for our county right now. And you can tell from, like yesterday, he was partying. Is it in Italy he is, or is he in France? And the county people were in the streets protesting because they haven't been paid. Who are they even protesting to? Because the MCAs are also out of the office. So legally, right now, if something, God forbid, happened to a governor, Senator Lachi would have to step up and become the new governor. Given the animosity between herself and the MCAs, the next thing we'll be seeing is she'll be impeached before she even takes office. Nairobi right now is not in a good place. It isn't in a good place. And I would that the higher powers that be would take steps to remedy it by either reining in our governor and telling him, look, hush up, let's get on with the job. Or, as it has been mooted before, maybe Nairobi should not be a county, a regular county. Maybe there should be a cosmopolitan authority over Nairobi, because it is the capital of this city, run it separately and differently than other counties.
Dennis, very quickly on that particular issue, how do we solve this administration conundrum we have in the capital city?
Number one, the Constitution envisages that whenever there's a crisis in county governments, the Assembly, which, of course, as you saw, the issues within the majority leader and all that, the war, it's almost Mogadishu small. But also it envisions that the Senate should kick in and try to resolve this matter.
Right.
But as you can see, the Senate itself is a toothless dog, you know, barking too much and nothing to do. But I would immediately go to, Article 1 to 4 of the Constitution, which says all sovereign power belongs to the people of this country and their God. So at the end of the day, we are able to institutionalize removal of office because it's not working. And we have so many years to go. If this is not working now, when shall it work? Right. I mean, Nairobi is completely incapacitated. So if the county assembly, which is completely, I don't even know what to say, the Senate is silent about it, then the people who power belongs to them should kick in and address this matter judiciously or through some type of active power. Okay,
of course. Now we have, I think, just a minute to go. Parting shot, Dennis Tumbi, as we wind up.
And I think for me, I'm really on this matter of public participation because our people don't still know that they yield the ultimate power when it comes to matters of governance in this country. That we must stop the demagoguery. We must stop passive power, which we only exercise during the election time, and understand the Constitution empowers us to be present at all time, to exercise the instrument of power according to the Constitution. We must wake up and run our cities, our municipalities. We must make sure that our MCAs work. When your servant is absent or when your servant is rogue, the opportunity you have is to fire him immediately. So as citizens, we must start exercising the tools of power that the Constitution has given us. Okay,
thank you so much, Dennis. Your parting shot to Joy this morning.
I'll have my parting shot where I had it last week. Ineos,
right.
You guys finally caught the fever, a little bit late, but you finally caught the fever. I am so proud of Eliud Kipchoge. I'm so proud of Bridget Kosgei. I'm so proud that this weekend has been such a buzz, such a high for Kenya.
Joy and I will start running.
Oh, really?
No. we will carry on cheering the runners because we are very loud voices. But over and above that is also a demonstration that we missed an opportunity again as a country. Brand Kenya came to the party so late. We should have been capitalizing on the sports tourism, inviting people to come and see this great nation where Kipchoge comes from. In the end, it was Vienna that reaped the whirlwind. We have to learn our lessons. Okay. We have to learn our lessons. But congratulations to Eliud Kipchoge. God bless you. Thank you for doing this. And we hope you break it for real in an IAAF.
Well, next year he's in Tokyo 2020.
Come on now, and he's going to shatter it. Yes.
Okay, fantastic stuff. That's where we leave our news super review this morning. Dennis Tumbi,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for making time this morning. But we continue with you as well. What you've heard here is what we discuss online. So please keep your tweets coming in as far as your feedback is concerned at K24 TV. Let us know what you feel about the big stories of the day. Take a short break. We are back on the other side. We get interactive. Good morning.